You know, we've had hearing after hearing after hearing, and we talk about the threat level that's there, and I think we all agree, but I want to talk about that. But on this acquisition thing, you know, I was 8 years in the House on the House Armed Services Committee before coming over here 20 years ago. And with a business background, it drives you crazy to see these things happen. The FCS, we went through this thing, and I guess the figure on that the chairman just talked about was $20 billion. That was from 2001 to 2010. Now, and then along came the Crusader, and I was here during that time. That actually was terminated by Bush in his administration. So when you make the statement, General Milley, that you don't want to make the mistakes of the past, how can you do that unless we change and improve the acquisition system? You are complimentary of the chairman, and that we have made last year some changes where you have a greater impact on making those decisions. But still, they were made by the administration. In fact, in the case of the Crusader, one of the really outstanding guys on the House Armed Services Committee resigned. He quit because of the fact that you get that huge investment, and then you turn around and abandon it. So I guess my question to you is what we did in starting to give you more latitude in helping with those decisions on acquisition and terminations, do we need to go further?
I believe, yes, we do, but I do appreciate the reforms that were made in the last cycle, and they have made a difference. And I can see that in several systems, small systems like the pistol, you saw that, up to larger systems that we're doing for like the ITEP engine for the UH-60 and several other programs that are out there, the PIM program for Paladin and others that are out there. So there is a difference being made. In terms of big ticket items like a brand new tank or a brand new helicopter, no, not yet. And part of that is because of limitations in current and existing technologies. So I do think there's been progress made, and I do think that the enhanced authorities that were given to the chiefs has made a difference, and I appreciate that.
Well, you mentioned the PIM program, which of course was taking an old system and upgrading it. That's as right. Opposed to a brand new system. Was that the right decision at that time?
I believe yes.
I think,
again, it goes back to technologies. I think we're on the, my assessment is we're on the cusp, we're within 10 years of a fundamental change in the character of warfare and the character of ground warfare.
Yeah, we also talked about, in response to the question, I think it was Senator McCain, about a hollow army. I chaired a committee of the vices just 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And at that time, it was Wilson with the Air Force, and he had said, we're already there in the Air Force in terms of the hollow Air Force. So that's, you know, a few of us up here are old enough to remember the Carter administration and how we tried to recover from that. And I'm sure that we're going to try to keep from having that happen again. Now, before Senator Sullivan starts talking, because he's going to penetrate this a lot more than I will, because there isn't time. But when you look at all the threats that are out there, a lot of us come to the conclusion that North Korea is it, for two primary reasons. One, it's run by a mentally deranged guy that no one can predict. And secondly, they are rapidly getting to the point, as came out from the examination by Senator Sullivan yesterday or the day before, with that capability that it could, you know, it's not a matter, I think they said not a matter of if, but when. So why don't you just concentrate, if you would, just on North Korea for the remainder of my last 45 seconds here, on why you, if you agree with us in terms of that being the greatest threat.
Well, Senator, you know, we're in a current war against ISIS, and probably the greatest capability out there remains Russia. But clearly, North Korea is probably the most dangerous, close in terms of time threat, in my view, that the United States faces. And they are rapidly developing an intercontinental ballistic missile with a nuclear weapon attached that can range the continental United States. And I don't think that we should allow that, and I don't think that's the policy of this nation. And I believe the President of the United States, when he says that if China doesn't solve it, the United States will. So I think that's the right approach, but I do think it's increasingly dangerous. There's no question the path they're on. I don't want to go into things that we would do, but it is dangerous.
Well, I do believe in the hearings that we've had, both the civilians and the uniforms alike have talked about how great the threat is. And you guys, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing it. We don't have the credibility out on the stump to talk about this, and particularly when you have a media who doesn't believe you. But with the military talking about it, I think that's significant. So I do applaud you and the others for not veering away from the threat that's out there, and it's very real. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.